Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Audio Listener Podcast, your daily space for English listening practice. Today's episode is about learning English in small, invisible steps. We'll talk about how that invisible process works, why natural English forms slowly, and why the results often appear much later than the effort. Let's begin. One of the most confusing things about learning English is that improvement rarely feels dramatic. There are no clear signals, no moment where you suddenly know with certainty that you are better than before. Most days feel the same. You understand a little, you miss a lot, and you move on. Because nothing obvious changes, the mind assumes nothing is happening. But language does not grow in visible jumps. It grows the way familiarity grows, slowly through repeated exposure. Your brain is not trying to impress you, it is trying to normalize English, and normalization is silent work. When English starts to feel less foreign, when the sound no longer feels sharp or exhausting, that is progress. Even if your speaking hasn't caught up yet, the foundation is being built. Fluency is not something you practice directly. It is something that emerges after enough preparation. The brain needs time to collect patterns, how sentences usually start, how ideas are commonly expressed, where pauses naturally occur. Until these patterns are familiar, speaking will always feel effortful. This is why learners often say, "I understand, but I can't speak." That gap is not a problem, and it's a phase. Understanding comes first because it is passive. Speaking comes later because it requires automatic access to those patterns. When fluency finally appears, it feels sudden. But that suddenness is an illusion. The work was happening quietly for months, sometimes years, without permission from your awareness. Listening is not just about understanding words. It is about training the ear to accept English as normal. At the beginning, listening feels tiring because the brain is constantly decoding. Over time, something changes. The brain stops fighting the sound and starts predicting it. This prediction is crucial. When your brain can guess what comes next in a sentence, English feels slower, easier, more natural. This ability does not come from studying rules. It comes from repeated listening to real speech. The goal of listening is not full comprehension. The goal is familiarity. Meaning deepens naturally after familiarity is established. Repetition is often underestimated because it doesn't feel productive. But repetition is how the brain decides something belongs. When you hear the same structures, rhythms, and expressions again and again, your brain stops treating them as foreign information. This is why listening to similar voices, similar topics, or similar formats helps more than constantly changing materials. Consistency lowers resistance, and lower resistance allows learning to sink deeper. Repetition doesn't make learning exciting. It makes learning stable, and stability is what allows fluency to form. Accent is not corrected early because it cannot be. You cannot adjust sounds you cannot hear clearly yet. The ear must become sensitive before the mouth can follow. This sensitivity develops slowly through listening. At first, learners are unaware of their own pronunciation difference. Later, they begin to notice them. That awareness is progress, not failure. Accent improvement happens naturally when listening sharpens perception. Trying to perfect accent too early creates tension. Relaxed exposure creates adaptation. Language grows through contact, not intensity. Short daily listening sessions keep English present in the mind. This presence matters more than effort. When English becomes a regular background element in your life, the brain treats it as relevant. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to stop for every word. Allowing partial understanding trains the brain to work with uncertainty, a skill native speakers use constantly. Progress comes from continuity, not pressure. Feeling stuck usually means the brain is reorganizing. Old patterns are breaking down. New ones are forming. This phase feels uncomfortable because there is no clarity yet. Many learners quit here because they mistake silence for stagnation. But this is often the stage just before visible improvement. Growth pauses on the surface while deep structure changes underneath. Patience here is not passive. It is strategic. Real progress does not shout. It whispers. English feels less tiring. Listening feels calmer. Familiar phrases appear automatically. These are signs that fluency is approaching, even if speaking still feels slow. Confidence comes after fluency, not before. And fluency comes after comfort. If your goal is to speak English fluently, naturally, and with ease, then you must accept the quiet phases of learning. English builds itself slowly through exposure and time. The visible result always comes last. Trust the invisible steps. They're doing more than you think. Thank you for listening to the Audio Listener Podcast. If this episode helped you see your learning process differently, then it served its purpose. Keep listening, keep allowing time to work, and let fluency arrive when it's ready.